we're basically at a point where we're going to start seeing margin compression happening. We've gotten a hint of it in the fourth quarter earnings. If you take a look at where revenue growth is vis-a-vis earnings growth, revenue growth has been a little bit stronger than earnings growth. And what that means is margins are being compressed, that costs are going up faster than the money's coming in.
Now, I mean, this is sort of, this comes at the tail end of a process over the past couple of years where companies slashed every cost that they could.
Right.
Margins actually kind of blew out. Profit growth certainly blew out. But that can't go on forever. Eventually that cycle has to slow down and maybe even reverse itself.
It's actually quite surprising how long it's lasted. So you can look at the margin number, you can also just look at the Labor Department's productivity figures. Basically the same thing, how much are you getting out of each worker? How much is that growing? And we've seen productivity growth really, really slow. And that means that companies are sort of facing they're at the efficiency frontier, I guess. Right. And they're going to have to, do something about that.
Well, you mentioned towards the end of your piece about the need to build up on the capital stock, which means investing in technology, investing in new plant and equipment. There's obviously a good. I'm very glad that you end up with the end of it saying the upside is that there is good news for the economy in this, because of course that means spending on the stuff that may require investment in jobs and so forth.
It's certainly good for the companies that make this stuff.
Right, but also the need for workers to sort of tool those machines. And
that's
so
the
forth,
big one.
Oh wait, what's going to happen? So if you think about it, so there you are. You've kind of gotten as much out of your workers as possible. Demand continues to rise. What are you going to do? Well, you don't want to hire a lot of people, so you want a capital spend so you can be more efficient. But you can't put equipment in place immediately. And frankly, they haven't been buying capital equipment that much. It's more sort of replacement than buying the new stuff. So yeah, probably they're going to start buying the new stuff, which is great for capital equipment companies. In the meantime, as that demand comes up, they're going to have to fill demand, and that means that they're going to have to hire more. So maybe the lesson that we got from the last jobs report is we're at that point.
Right, that's the question. Are we starting to see that?
Yeah.
And how much is a process in, say, China related to this? I mean, it seems to me that one of the big things that happened in the post-crisis era, yes, there were layoffs, but there was also outsourcing that went on. There was an acceleration in the outsourcing really after the crisis as a way to exactly do what we were talking about, which is save costs. But of course, China's had inflation, it's had the yuan has come up, and other countries as well. Right. So offshore costs have risen as well, right?
Right.
I mean, how much is that a factor in this?
I think that's definitely part of the conversation that you're seeing with companies now. So, first thing, Chinese labor costs are going up. Second thing, if you think about sort of supply chain issues, companies have learned, having these really stretched out supply chains that go all the way to Asia, not as great as you might have thought. So we are seeing more companies, talk about either near sourcing, putting operations in Mexico, and in some cases actually building up operations here rather than in China.
Yeah. Now you talk about how this is going to affect earnings. I have one great little factoid, I'll call it. It's really a fact, not a factoid. I don't know what a factoid is. But I got this note, maybe you got it too, from Howard Silverblatt over at S&P last night, where he points out that if you look at the fourth quarter earnings, and it's about 83% of the companies have reported, you look at the as reported, the GAAP earnings, they're up about, I think it's 7 or 8% overall. If you take out Apple, just Apple, there's no profit growth. It actually turns negative.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it tells you two things. One, what a special case Apple is, but two, what's happening to profits at the rest of the S&P 500 companies.
Right. Now,
and this
of course,
ties into that.
Yeah, on the other hand, if you take out the company that lost the most, how much is it going to go?
Yeah, but Apple is such a giant number this quarter. Huge
number.
And I wonder, what does that say about what happens in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter? I think, is this an inflection point for margins and for profit growth?
Yeah, I wonder. It could be. But on the other hand, we do have to think, if we are hiring more people, that's just good for the economy and that's good for everyone, including companies.